Half of a group of Michigan college students plugged in a random USB drive that they found lying around, some of them within minutes. If you're shocked as I was by that story, then you're listening to the right episode. It's the fifth in our Encore series where we're bringing back an episode that listeners really seem to engage with. My co-host Prasanna Malaiyandi and I sat down with Mark Schreiner, host of the Secure Talk podcast, to talk cybersecurity best practices for individuals. Not the enterprise SOC stuff that we normally talk about. Real practical things that you and your family should be doing. Things like multi-factor authentication, phishing prevention, SIM swapping protection, password managers, and of course my favorite topic, backups. We landed on a phrase by the end of this episode that summed up the whole thing, and that is just do something. Don't let perfect be the enemy of protected. By the way, if this is your first time watching or listening to me, I'm W. Curtis Preston, aka Mr. Backup. I've been obsessing over backup, recovery, and now cyber recovery for over 30 years. If that's your bag, then I'm your guy and you should probably subscribe. You're not going to find anybody that cares about that topic more than me. Ever since 1993, when I had to tell my boss that there were no backups of the database that we had just lost. Now I've written 5 books, a blog, and a podcast. Here we turn unappreciated admins into cyber recovery heroes. This is the Backup Wrap-Up. Hi folks, Dr. Mike Saylor and I have just published our new book, Learning Ransomware Response and Recovery. Most books on this subject tell you how not to get ransomware. We actually took a different approach. We start by acknowledging the odds of your organization getting hit by some kind of ransomware are virtually 100%. So instead of pretending that we can prevent all of it, we teach you how to prepare for it, respond, and recover. Ransomware is inevitable. Recovery is a choice. Check it out at stopransomware.com. Hi, and welcome to Backup Central's podcast. I'm your host, W. Curtis Preston, aka Mr. Backup, and I have with me my close personal friend, but a guy who's impossible to get an actual date with, Prasanna Malaiyandi. How's it going, Prasanna?
Oh, Curtis, I'm good.
You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
I know the fact that you came all the way up to Santa Clara to visit the office, and we didn't get a chance to meet.
And how many times has that happened? I'm just saying.
No, I think last time you came up, we did meet because remember we did the photo shoot.
Okay, all right, that doesn't count. The photo shoot doesn't count.
It does. I think so.
Okay.
And then the time before we met twice. So I think that I get to carry over one of those. But you were also busy.
I'm still feeling a little butthurt.
But you were also busy with your dinners.
Can't get a date with my friend. By the way, my friend, whose wife isn't even in town. Like, who took priority over hanging out with me? What entity? I want you to say publicly what entity took priority over hanging out with me.
The dog.
The dog. Yeah. The dog. You had something to do with the dog. And so that was more important than hanging out with me. But whatever.
I love you, Curtis.
Clearly.
I love you, Curtis. I love you.
Whatever. All right. So our guest is like, what have I wandered into?
Exactly.
We actually have, this is one of the few times where I was on our guest's podcast, and now he's on my podcast. Mark Schreiner is the strategic sales director for, by the way, is it MemoQ? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
Yeah, okay. Mark Schreiner is the strategic sales director for MemoQ, a leading translation management system provider and the host of the Secure Talk podcast, which is how we came to meet. I got to go over and talk about backups on his podcast, and then he got to he's now on my podcast to talk about security. He graduated from Penn State University with a bachelor's degree in liberal arts and sciences. In 2022, he completed Harvard's Cybersecurity Managing Risk in the Information Age Diploma Program. So I'm fascinated. And by the way, welcome to the podcast, Mark Schreiner.
Thank you, Curtis, and thank you, Prasanna. It's actually, I've had fun watching you guys with the intro there. You seem like an old married couple or something.
We're an old married couple that never sees each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Prasanna lives in what is it? Is it Santa Clara?
Yeah, Santa Clara.
Yeah, he lives in Santa Clara. I live in San Diego, and you live a little bit farther north, as I recall, up in Seattle.
Yes, and I'm envious of both of your weather. I actually, to be honest with you, I just spent the last 3 months traveling between Arizona, St. George, Utah, Las Vegas, and San Diego and Los Angeles, all in that area for 3 months for business and for some personal business. And in 3 months, I had 5 cloudy, rainy days. And I got back here at the beginning of May thinking like, hey, it's safe to come back to Seattle. Wrong.
No. Yeah, it's funny. Seattle is one of those places where when it is sunny, it is just
beautiful.
One of the most beautiful places on earth. I remember, and I think I told you when I was on your podcast that I did some work for Amazon back in 1998. I put in, for the record, I put in their first enterprise-wide backup system. And I was there in the summer and not a single cloudy day for 3 months. And it was, like
It's
I
perfect.
said, going up to Mount Rainier and going out on the Sound and watching them throw the fish there. It's Pike Place Market, of course, hanging out at the bubblegum wall. I'm just saying, I like Seattle.
Yeah, I went for a
Starbucks.
trip. Yeah, I went up for a trip, I think 4 years ago, around this time in May. And the weather was gorgeous, like perfectly sunny. And I was asking everyone, I was like, what are you guys complaining about? The weather is gorgeous. They're like, you just ended up being here on the perfect week.
Yeah.
In contrast, right now in San Diego, we are in the middle of what we call May gray, and then next month will be June gloom. This is the worst time of the year to actually visit San Diego. You can get sunny days, but there will be multiple days in a row where it's just 100% overcast.
Is it because of the fog that comes in, or is it just overcast and gray?
It's overcast and gray. It's not. So the fog, we call that the marine layer. The marine layer generally burns off after around 9 or 10 if you have a strong marine layer. And it's just weird because there's no rain connected with it. It's just gloomy and it just is what it is. And I talk to people all the time. They're like, yeah. And it just, people will come here. It's like, I thought you guys were sunny. I'm like, I tell you, it's May gray, man. Welcome to San Diego.
Whenever I've been in San Diego, it's always been sunny, and I come down there 3 or 4 times a year. I'll be there twice this summer for soccer, for my son's soccer tournaments. But I love it. I'm interested to know, do you think that people act, let's say, what word, are personalities different based upon the area? And what I'm getting at is, so for example, in San Diego, do you find that people are more or less outgoing, or Seattle, or in the Silicon Valley? Do you notice a difference?
I think people are attracted to areas based on, this is our grade people made, or are they born, or whatever. Same. I think that certain types of people are attracted to certain types of areas, right? And I think people that like to be outside are attracted to places where that's the case, right?
Yeah.
But people come here and they actually, many people reject, or they react quite negatively to the intense brown that we have. Guys, this is a desert. The only reason that we can occupy this world is thanks to the Colorado River. You know that, right? The Colorado River and the LA aqueduct that brings water over from those mountains. And now we finally have our first desalination plant in Carlsbad. It's supplying 10% of San Diego's water, but it's a desert, which means everything's brown, and anything that you see that's green is either some type of cactus or it is being watered by someone.
Or it's artificial.
Or it's artificial. It's a cell phone tree. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's if you're a person who hates a lot of sun, this would not be the place to be, right?
There are people, I've heard of people that hate the sun. I think they're generally called vampires, but no, sorry. No,
Yeah,
I mean, I just love it.
Vampires.
It is very green up here. It's very nice. And it's interesting you mentioned the desalination plant, because it's not just California that has issues with water. It's the whole Southwest right now. And at some point, the Colorado River is dwindling. Lake Powell, Lake Mead, their levels are going down.
Lake Mead looks horrible.
And at some point, this is a kind of a borderline national security issue. And then you think about the wildfires, because it's the dryness. Desalination plants probably can't help with that, but they can help with some of the lack of water. what are your, how is it working? Is it solar based? How's it powered? And is this the
Yeah, I think
solution?
I don't know a lot about it, about like how it works. I know it took 15 years to make it happen, and I
Hmm.
know that generally speaking, the environmentalists aren't huge fans. And the next thing that is finally happening, and it's one of where you just have to mentally get past it. It's unofficially referred to as toilet to tap. That is what's happening finally in California. Is, guys, we're not getting any more water, and it's really expensive to pull it out of the ocean. Why don't we filter what we already have? And that's starting to happen in these areas. So we'll
I
see.
lived in Singapore for 4 years, and in Singapore is a big. They have none of their own water supplies. They're
Right.
very dependent upon a pipeline from Malaysia, and they have these toilet to tap plants. And
Yeah.
yeah, the Prime Minister of Singapore go over there and pour himself a glass of water and just drink it there on the spot. And I was
Right.
like, if it's good enough for him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, you don't want to think
Yeah.
about it, like you said, though.
You don't want to think about it, but try not to. Try not to. But so I'm curious. So how did drew you to cybersecurity?
Well, a couple different things. I think in 2017, we were moving back from a 9-year stint in Asia, moving back to the States. And a good friend of mine had a company that was becoming a Microsoft cybersecurity and compliance partner. He was looking for some help on the business development side. And I started to take a look. The more I researched, the more interested I became, because cybersecurity is something that can go a mile wide and then also a mile deep in any one of those things. If you want to talk about pen testing, backups, encryption, different compliance organizations, you can just go in so many, data loss prevention, endpoint protection. You can go so many different directions.
Mhm.
And then each one of those, you can go down these super deep rabbit holes. And I like learning. The other thing that I find interesting about cybersecurity back then and now is that before, I think we thought that this is cybersecurity. There was a couple people back in the corner of the IT department, and that their job is cybersecurity. But everybody in an organization needs to have some type of awareness and responsibility for security. But beyond that, us as individuals and consumers, we need to be aware of some security best practices. And so it affects everybody's life. And it's something that 30 years ago, nobody was talking about because there was no internet. And now it's hugely important with the internet, social media, everything. I have 3 children, and they need to know some best practices about what does a phishing campaign look like, or a phishing attack look like? How do they protect their passwords? What shouldn't do with their mobile devices, etc. So it affects everybody, and it's this like new field that was created partially based upon the explosion of the internet and IoT. I think we're just getting started in terms of understanding the threat landscape, but also the best practices for prevention. Does that make sense?
Do you see that a lot of this? I know it's an interesting point you made that it's rolling into consumers. Like everyone has to start caring about this like every day. Do you start to find that's actually happening, or are people, yeah, that's just something that a company has to worry about, or a business has to worry about, or like this large CEO has to worry about, not necessarily me?
Yeah, and let me answer that by backing up even farther. I think in companies right now, where it used to be the perception that it was part of the IT teams or the CISO's job, there is a growing or increasing awareness that it's everybody's responsibilities. And so you'll have, not only you have structured educational programs, but you'll have simulated phishing campaigns and things like that. So enterprise wide. And if you get the CEO and he clicks on the wrong thing, and boom, guess what? You got to go to training. You're doing timeout. And companies try to make that fun. So in companies, it's becoming, I guess, increasingly common for people to accept that everybody has a responsibility. If you find a thumb drive in the parking lot, don't just walk in and stick it in your company's device. And sharing those stories. I remember growing up and listening to my grandparents tell stories about this accident, that accident, this person who did something good, did something bad. And we learn from those stories. And I think when we share these stories about hacks, or the famous story about somebody finding a thumb drive and then putting it in their device and then downloading some malware inadvertently, we learn from that. And those stories are important. So that's one method or one data point. People in organizations are becoming increasingly aware. Individuals, I think, are also becoming increasingly aware. Let's start off with high net worth individuals, where they are very much in the sights of targeted phishing, spear phishing campaigns, right? And so there are certain tools and methods and processes out there to help these people at least become aware of what the threat looks like. But beyond that, I think just the general public, if I look at my kids, they are pretty suspicious and cynical and almost jaded in terms of, look at this. They'll show me stuff. They're like, look at this. It's just, and because it's obviously it's a scam. And so I think people are becoming increasingly aware. At the same time, you still hear of, consumers every day. For example, they're transferring money to a title agency and somebody spoofs the address where they're supposed to, or the account information. That kind of stuff is happening. And yes and no, to answer your question. I think people are becoming more aware, but we have a long ways to go.
Yeah.
So there was a study back in 2016 from the University of Michigan where they left a series of USB drives that had an HTML in there, that if you open up an HTML, it had an image tag. So they were able to identify how many people actually clicked on the thing. What do you suppose the percentage was of the people that
University of Michigan, that's what, Big Ten? Those guys probably. I'm West Coast, so I'm afraid to guess. What was it?
It was half.
Wow. That was in what year?
2016.
Wow.
297 USB drives around the Urbana-Champaign campus. These are college kids, right? These are
one of the best universities in the country.
Yep.
Wow.
Exactly. They said they found that 48% of the drives were picked up and plugged into a computer, some within minutes of being dropped.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Hopefully the situation or the awareness is getting better. I look at little things like turning on MFAs or multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentications for just any, obviously any bank accounts, but any of your online tools or apps, just turn it on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a simple thing that's going to stop 99%, but some people, it's a hassle. Well, if your account gets compromised, then that's going to be a hassle.
Yeah, I've mentioned on this podcast a few times that I went from being an NFA noob, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, to slowly, and then it was a snowball situation. I ended up rolling MFA anywhere it mattered, and because I have, oh Lord, I have 800 accounts I'm not kidding. I have a password manager, so I can pull it up and see it. And I have just hundreds and hundreds of accounts at random places where
What are you doing, man?
I just stuff. Anyway,
Prasanna, you gotta tell me Curtis is into some shady stuff, man. If he's got 800 accounts.
Well, I'm just hoping he talks about his experience with MFA.
Yeah. So
the story.
And so I don't, my point of mentioning how many accounts I don't have MFA on most of those because they're just stuff where I don't, there's no information. I'm just, anyway, but I did roll out MFA everywhere, and I used Google Authenticator and wherever I could because of what I knew about that, using Google Authenticator over text-based MFA. And by the way, I don't know if I'd like to come back to that idea, but here's what happened. I got a new phone and I got locked out of all my accounts.
Oh no.
Because I didn't know what I didn't know. And so when I rolled that out again, I switched to Authy as an app, which allows you to back up the stuff and trend. Anyway, yeah, I'm a huge fan of MFA. And I've mentioned before that I went from being a noob to being very angry if there's a company that I'm interacting with where things matter and they don't have the authenticator style of MFA. I do want to ask you this, and how much you know about why the text-based method of authentication is bad, like sending an SMS message.
I'm just going to take a shot in the dark. I'm just going to say that it can be somehow intercepted, and somebody could actually just use it, or you could, something, a derivative of that. But tell me.
Yeah. I was hoping you knew more than I did.
This is technology. No.
And Prasanna, you're up on this stuff. So here's the thing. I'm wondering if there's a company that offers multiple methods of authentication. My credit union, they have my phone, and they use they have an authenticator method where you get the little 6-digit code if you pull up their app on your phone. I prefer that method. I use that method whenever I can. But should I be bothered by the fact that they also support SMS? Like there's no way to disable the fact that they
I
have
I,
SMS.
I would be a little worried just because the number of SIM swap attacks that are happening these days. Like you hear it all the time when it comes to crypto with
Mhm.
all these hacks where someone SIM swaps with someone else, gets the authenticator code, cleans out their wallet, their Bitcoin wallet. So I
Right.
think it is common. And even T-Mobile, right, was accused of allowing porting out of numbers as well. That's another thing that can happen.
Right.
Yeah,
So you think I should be worried? I don't know what I could do.
Yeah,
Right.
and it also depends to what extent. Like some random person going after you specifically, Curtis, right? The
No big
likely
deal.
exactly. But I think there are cases like if you're a high net worth user or even you have sensitive data or things like that that you care about that I think, yeah, you should be worried about. Even email multi-factor authentication sometimes is worrisome as well. It's things which you can't completely secure on it on your
Right.
own.
yeah, that's
I
what I'm
know.
seeing. That most of the organizations that I'm MFAing with offer an option. Could be, for example, a token that you have. It could be the authenticator app, could be a text, could be an email. And they offer the consumer the choice at this point, probably just trying to make it easy for somebody to opt in with something. But there are obviously some that are more secure than others. And I spoke earlier about the awareness of some consumers, especially high net worth individuals, becoming more cyber aware. And the specific attack that I was thinking about is SIM swapping. And I know a gentleman that's been SIM swapped 3 times, and he described it as he was on an airplane. He got off the airplane, his phone wouldn't work, and it just took him days to get back online. It was maddening, scary, and primarily done through social engineering, where they contact the mobile
Provider,
carrier
yeah.
and convince them that they are you and that you need a new SIM. And it's just, that is so scary.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
made it
that's
so easy to port numbers as well. That's also another common vector.
What does that mean to port a number? Does that mean to change carriers?
Yeah, to change carriers.
Okay.
and so basically instead of just doing a SIM swap, they just pretend to be you and
Yeah,
port your number to another carrier.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, that's not good.
These bad guys are really bad, man.
I think that's something we can all agree on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I have multiple accounts where like Gmail. Okay, Gmail. It's very specific on what authenticator systems that you use, and you can disable ones that you don't want to use. Specifically, you can disable SMS authentication. But my credit union, it supports all of them, and I suppose the only way to disable SMS-based authentication is to delete my cell phone from the account, but that's just weird.
But change it to
You know
like
what I
a
mean?
mobile number, or sorry, to the home number, right? If your
Yeah,
credit union allows you to say, is this a cell phone or a home number? I'm sure
yeah.
if you select a home number, it won't send you SMSs. But
What's a home
a
number?
Right?
landline, an old school. I know I've seen places where is this a home number or is this a cell phone number, right?
Interesting. So I'm curious, Mark. What do you if you're so I know as a person dedicated to backup, I have my top 5 of these are things. And by the way, on your podcast, the first, like my biggest one you and I talked about was the idea that cloud stuff is automatically backed up, which it isn't. If somebody were to say, what are the top 5 things that I need to be concerned about as either personally, or it sounds like personally you're thinking MFA.
I would say that's just a best practice personally or for companies. And companies have a little bit more sophisticated tools at their disposal, so they can push an MFA depending on the user behavior. Are they logging in from a new location? Are they logging in from another country? Is there some kind of anomalous behavior? This Mark never accesses these files. Now he's downloading gigabytes of finance records. I think we're going to force an MFA on that. So I think MFA is a foundational thing for individuals or organizations. I think some other best practices for individuals, again, would be backup to ensure that your information is backed up. I don't know if you guys have seen these. Mr. Backup gives me a thumbs up.
I'm very excited
Double
about
thumbs
that.
up from Mr. Backup.
Very excited about that.
Yeah. Have you guys get these emails that say, hey, I'm sorry to tell you, but I've been spying on you for the last couple months. And if you don't send this money to whatever, I'm going to release this stuff, this thing of you going to these inappropriate websites. And they send these emails out to thousands of people, and some people, because they know that some people will be like, oh my God, I should pay this, right? Well, you should, for one, if you get that email, delete it. I don't care what sites you've been going to. It's just they're just phishing. And two, if you've got your stuff backed up, you don't have to worry about anybody encrypting anything. Now, if they're going to release stuff, that is another thing from malware, is if they take your records, even though you've backed them up, if they're going to release something that you don't want released to the public, that's a whole nother discussion. But definitely you should back up. Antivirus, running an antivirus is super important. What else as a consumer? Just being aware and pausing when you see something that looks a little off. Anytime somebody says, hey, there's a problem with your account, we need you to log in and no, just stop. Okay. Or, oh, your order for $15,000 from Amazon is on its way. And you're like, freaking out.
Like,
dude,
what?
Just,
yeah.
If you didn't expect it, don't click it.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to say it. I like that. Didn't expect it, don't click it. And obviously you can look at the sender's real address and see, is this something real? Read it. Is a lot of this stuff, they've got shoddy grammar, fuzzy images, but people get worked up. You guys, I'm sure you've seen the ones where you get an email from the CEO. Hey, Mark, I need you to run out and buy 50 gift cards for Target and send. And this happened to one of my boys who was working as an internship for the cybersecurity company that I was working with before, which the company is Adequest. The CEO of Adequest, his name is Hiram Machado. And it was like my son's third day into his internship, and he got an email saying, hey, Makai, I need you to run out and buy $500 worth of gift cards from Target. And I need you to, once you have that, just let me know, and I'll tell you what we're going to do with them. But I need this for this event we're doing this afternoon. And so Makai, again, telling you the kids are getting smarter these days, hopefully. Not the ones in University of Michigan, I guess. That was 2016. He emailed me and he goes, what should I do with that? And I said, send it. I said, we're going to use this as a case study and a learning example. Don't do anything with it. But yeah, I don't know. What advice would you guys give?
I mean, that stuff's all good. I think you talked about hovering over the site to see the site. What I generally say is, if you get an unexpected communication from somebody you actually do business with, because I get stuff like that my Citibank card has been compromised. I'm like, I haven't had a Citibank card in 20 years, so
right.
I think I'm pretty good. But I've gotten phished from like PayPal, stuff like that, or not from PayPal, but as a PayPal
people pretending to be PayPal. Yeah.
Pretending to be PayPal. Is if you are actually concerned, if it sounds like something that might be real, go to paypal.com. Don't interact in any way with that email. Go to paypal.com or contact PayPal's phone number, not anything listed in that email. It's interesting, though. There are times when in fact, just a couple of days ago, I got contacted by a company that I do business with, and it was a credit card company. Mm-hmm. And they were like, we're such and such from such and such credit card company, and we want to call to verify charges. And I'm like, how about I freaking verify you? Yeah. Random dude.
Show me your badge.
We want to authenticate. We want to authenticate you before we talk to you about the account. I'm like, how do I authenticate you? Like, why do you people still think this is like I will call? Thank you for calling. I will call the 800 number on, and by the way, it was a real thing. I will call the 800 number on my credit card and I will ask for the fraud department. And it was a real thing, but that's annoying that happens because that is a phishing way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And people think that all cyber attacks are through email or somehow somebody's getting into your network. Some of them is just a phone call.
Yeah.
I've been called by the IRS, texts, whatever. And yeah, is this Mr. Schreiner? Yes. We have an urgent matter that we need to talk to you about. Really? And sometimes I just, where is this going to go? Because I know at one point they're going to ask me for Social Security, date of birth, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I'm like, okay, yeah, what's going on? They're like, before we can go any further, we need to get some information from you. And typically the smart ones, They won't go right to Social Security. They'll say, I just want to confirm that your name is blah, blah, blah. They got your name. I'm like, yeah, that's me. And that you're living at, yeah. And so now I'm starting to respond to them. And then as sooner or later, they're like, okay, and then can we give you the year of your date of birth? And you're like, and they just the good ones start to tease it out of you. Because they're not, if they come, first thing they ask you is Social Security, people are like, whoa, but you get down there and then they build a rapport. And that's what they're all looking for.
Yeah, it feels like they have that information already. So it's okay, what's this one more piece of information? It's fine.
We're doing it just to verify that we're talking to the right person.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's funny because I remember when my dad retired, like he'd always get all these calls from like scammers or salespeople. And I'd be like, you guys should just chat with them. It's what do you have to lose? Just don't give them any information, but at least you're saving
You're retired.
Yeah.
They're willing to talk to you.
Exactly. And at least you're saving someone else from having to get a call.
Right.
There's an English dude that I've seen. He does videos where he interacts with these folks, and he does talks where he talks about his interactions. Have you seen those?
I've seen stuff like that. Yeah. I don't know if I've seen that specific one, but yeah, where they just go, and after a while, the scammers, they're getting really frustrated after a while because they start to realize that they're the ones getting scammed.
There's this one guy, and he's just really funny, and he does it like a talk, he does it on stage where he talks about his interactions with these folks, and it's just he does it in a very funny way. So the phone calls and emails, don't click on the emails. Like, just again, if you think it's actually from PayPal, then go to paypal.com. Not anything with that. Go ahead.
And one of the points Mark made earlier around social engineering, I think people also should just be careful what they post online. If you're like putting Facebook messages or tweets, be careful.
We're leaving tomorrow for a 3-week vacation to the Bahamas. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's totally the case. Or it's, or you start inadvertently being like, hey, it's my birthday, or it's, my mother so-and-so, right? And or favorite dog's name and all the rest of this. And people can take that information and they could use it for social engineering to extract other information from you.
Colby. I know what your favorite dog's name is. Why? Because he was more important than me. I'm sorry. I'm going to let it go. Maybe.
Dude, I think he's really hurt, man. He's damaged, man.
I went to Il Fornaio without you. I'm just saying. It's some really good food. Yeah. So what about companies? So we talked about MFA. So there's two ways to talk about MFA. You should, as a company, be offering MFA when people are interacting with your service online, right?
Yeah.
And then you should, as a company, I like what you were talking about earlier, because obviously, by the way, I hadn't thrown out our disclaimer. So Prasanna and I work for different companies. I work for Dhruva. He works for Zoom. And this is not a podcast of either company. And the opinions here are all ours. And be sure to rate us, by the way, at ratethispodcast.com/restore. And then if you want to come on and listen to me complain to Prasanna yourself live, you could do that.
We love guests.
Just at WC Preston on Twitter or WCurtisPreston@gmail. With Dhruva, for example, we've supported third-party MFA for a while, and now we support native MFA. If you're a company if you're a cloud company, or if you're a company that has information that is important like that, and people are logging into your system without MFA, then bad company. And it should also not be SMS-based authentication. You should offer authenticator method. And I'm going to throw out, please don't be a website that is hard to use a password manager with. Right? Don't be complaining about one or two of the special characters that my password manager came up with. Or I had one this week that complained. They're like, hey, man, your password's too long. It was 20 characters. And they said you can use a maximum of 17 characters. And I'm like,
17?
Yeah, 17.
That is so weird.
And so based on that, I no longer interact with the IRS.
But I also want to go back to a point Mark made earlier, which was that MFA, I don't think, solves everything. You still need those, especially as a business, you still need those other things to look for anomalies, right? To look at the behavior of the user, because MFA will protect you to a certain extent, but it's not the only line of defense.
Oh yeah, at the corporate level, again, the The complexity of the problem and the complexity of the solutions available are much greater. At the corporate level, you have things like device management, for example. And these days, everybody wants to BYOD, but you also have corporate devices. But on my own device, I'm going to have access to company apps and data. How does the company manage that? There's mobile device management tools out there that can, and if I lose my phone, I can tell the company, hey, I lost my phone. They can remote wipe their data. They can do remote backups, all of that stuff. They can check for anomalous behavior on a phone. Mark just logged in from Bellevue, but he's also logging in from Romania. Something's wrong here, right? Yeah, all that stuff. And it's depending on the size and the shape of the organization, it can be, you have SIMs to monitor all types of activity, to collect your logs. That's, again, it comes back to that original point of why cybersecurity, because it's such a broad field and there's so many different, it's constantly evolving. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm curious what you think about. So one of the things I'm pushing outside of the backup space, one of the things that I'm pushing people to do, or companies to do, is to look into a couple of different types of tools. One is we've had somebody on here from a company that does DDI, right? So
Mhm.
what did we decide? That was DNS, DHCP,
DHCP and IPAM.
and IPAM. Yeah. And so that was one group of tools, which is they can do things of like, why is somebody going to this really? Why is something looking at a DNS address that is a DNS name that is like 57 characters long and doesn't make any sense? That is
Sure.
a
Flag.
ransomware thing,
Yeah.
reaching out for command and control. That's number one. And number two, the type of software or system or whatever that can identify data leaks, so that there's a general level of outgoing
Mhm.
traffic, and then suddenly there's this giant spike from Fred's desktop
It's
that
no
never
longer in the
happened
company.
before. Fred's no longer
Fred's
in
on
the company.
vacation.
Exactly. Fred's on
Right.
vacation because he
Right.
posted on Facebook that he's in Maui this week, and his laptop's doing that. What do you think about those two types of tools?
I think on the situation, it's every tool has its appropriate usage, and I think for most companies, both of those make sense. For both those tools make sense for a lot of companies and organizations out there. And I guess the question, again, I'm not technical, more at the kind of higher level, trying to understand what the problems are, putting together some solutions. One of the challenges is that you have so many different vendors of so many different tools. And so do you look for these custom bespoke kind of solutions and tools, or do you work with a platform provider? For example, Microsoft M365 has a lot of DLP tools in there. They have advanced threat protection, they have antivirus, anomaly detection, all of that's built in there. So and then device management as well. Or do you say, no, we don't want to put all of our eggs in the Microsoft basket. We want to go for best in breed. And I don't know, Prasanna, like if I don't know how much you can talk about at Zoom, but like, how do you guys decide what kind of tool? Are you going to go with an integrated approach, or do you look for best in breed?
So I can't talk specifically about Zoom, but in general, right, I think it's going to come down to the need for a tool as well as the expertise. If I'm looking at sort of small, medium businesses where maybe they don't have specialized IT admins, we face the same thing in backup as well. There is no one who could go learn everything and anything about security tools. And so you're going to probably want a single tool that allows you to solve everything. Just like in backup, you have those issues as well.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get to larger companies, or if you have specialized problems, you might start to sort of roll out into, okay, I now need a specialized tool, a best of breed tool, because I have this special need, or I now have the skill sets to be able to address some of these issues. And therefore, I'm going to pick different tools based on my needs. And I think it's hard to say one is better than another. I think it depends on where you are and what your needs are.
Yeah, I would agree, and not just because I work for a SaaS company, but I would agree that where there's a big business need that you have, such as email, clearly a business need, a need that every business has, that if a SaaS solution is available and it's a well-known, respected, et cetera, solution that you can vet out, then from a security basis, I would prefer that over something that you're going to, let's say, I would prefer Microsoft 365 over Exchange on-prem in a heartbeat. Exchange on-prem is harder to secure. It's harder to manage. So you got to manage the system. You got to manage the storage. Then you got to manage the backup of that. And then you got to make sure that backup gets off-site. All of that is easier if you have Microsoft 365. Now, you should be backing it up, right? Microsoft's not backing it up for you. That was what you and I talked on your podcast. Sure. But there are services that will back up. Obviously, Druva Office is one, but there are many companies that back up Microsoft 365. And so I think from a security basis, as long as you vet the security vendor, look for things like MFA, look for things like what their NDA situation is, the type of data that they have, whether or not they share personal information. Because many of these SaaS vendors, that's actually their business model, is they're either cheap or free, and they make up, their money with using your personal data. That's not what I'm recommending.
No, it's interesting when you talk about tool selection. I think another factor should be: do you have the in-house expertise? And if you don't, how accessible is it on the market? Because right now, depending on what tool you're trying to deploy, it could be very challenging. You can get a great deal. And it's interesting because when people start talking about how much is this per seat or per license, one of the things that you have to look at is what are your deployment costs going to be? And then what are your ongoing maintenance costs going to be in terms of the expertise to manage that? And that's something that often it doesn't come into play until after they focus on the technology or the vendor, but not on the total cost of the deployment. And I would encourage everybody to do that.
Yeah. And also along with the deployment, it's how flexible is it to change as your environment changes as well. I think some tools are very static. It's easy to deploy the first time, but anytime you add a new app or a new environment or something else, it becomes very difficult, or it's time consuming to get it to expand to now cover that new workload, versus maybe it's better to get something that might be a little bit more complex for the initial deployment, but like you said, ongoing maintenance, ongoing monitoring, all the rest of that becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, I think that's why from a security basis, I'm a big fan of SaaS apps, because you look at, again, in the backup space, if you're using an on-prem backup software, you must be up to date on what you have, both a box, maybe multiple boxes that are, you might have a server, you might have a storage array, and that you must be up to date on that operating system and protecting that operating system, securing it, doing all of those things. I hope you have MFA on that backup server, by the way. And then you've got the software, the backup software that you have to stay up on. And people are notoriously very bad at upgrading their backup software. We brought a guy over from Veritas, and he told us that their best guess was that the average time that customers took to upgrade their backup software was 18 months.
If it works, don't touch it.
If it works, don't touch it. People are terrified of upgrading their backup server because it's the last line of defense. But the problem is the problem is that ransomware folks, specifically the Conte group, are specifically targeting backup servers. And so not only is it something that needs to be protected, it is a direct attack point.
I'm curious, because we touched on consumers before. What are your recommendations or suggestions for just individuals in terms of backing up their personal data?
I'm going to sound like a broken record, but SaaS backup, man.
Okay.
There are SaaS backup. Druva's not one of them. There are SaaS backup companies that target consumers, and you're looking at $50 a year, that sort of thing. I pay more than I would like to back up my iPhone. Like I pay for iCloud. So there's that. But there are a number of services that will back up what's important to you. And specifically, if you've got a laptop, and let's be honest, you got a laptop, it's not that hard to get that laptop backed up. I am not a fan of using USB devices to back up the laptop. I know it works. The problem is that USB device is generally sitting right next to or in the same bag that the laptop itself is. You get a theft, there goes your backup. You get a fire, there goes your backup. So I much prefer, for the same reasons for the companies, I prefer a cloud-based system that will back up the most important stuff for you, right?
I'll disagree with Curtis here.
Okay. What? Uh-oh. Here we go.
I agree that to some extent, yes, SaaS-based is good.
I just muted your microphone, Persona.
Thanks, Curtis.
I've never done that. That was fun.
So I agree that there are certain things that you want to use a SaaS-based service for. But if you're not willing to shell out, or if you don't think you really need it, take at least what's there with your existing laptop, for instance. If you have Time Machine, I know, Curtis, we've had the discussions about Time Machine in the past. You're not as thrilled about it. But if you do have a mechanism, use that mechanism rather than have nothing. Right? I'd rather have someone use something rather than being like, oh, do I want to pay $50 a year or whatever it is? Yes, those are better solutions, but take what you have and just do something.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. The only thing I will say is that hard drive that if you have the hard drive already, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying you just need to think about the fact that that hard drive so do things like rotate. But the problem is you go buy a modern hard drive to back up your system. That's going to be $100 plus.
Yep.
That's a couple of years of the service that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, hey, just saying.
I get it.
Anyway,
Yeah.
What?
I think the big thing is just do something. Don't do nothing.
Yeah.
I think we're saying that I think that's our summary statement. Maybe we'll make that the title of the podcast. Just do something.
Just the Nike thing, but just change it to something.
just do something.
It's not as inspiring as it, but it's something.
I like it. Well,
hey, I got to ask you guys something, because you asked me earlier. How did the idea to do a podcast come about, and your friendship, and how did that work out?
I don't know. I got the idea of doing a podcast after going from not believing in podcasts. Like, I didn't get it. I didn't understand why anybody would do a podcast. And then I started listening to podcasts. I got in a situation where they were valuable to me as a person. And I was like, I talk a lot. Maybe this would be something to do. And then I encountered Persona in the office. He used to work at Druva. That's where I met him. And I went up to him and I proposed the idea of us doing a podcast together, because I thought that we had a decent interaction, and Persona just jumped at the chance, didn't you, Persona?
I was like, what are we going to talk about for 20 minutes? I have nothing to talk about at all. I don't know what you're talking about, Curtis.
Yeah, it very quickly.
So when did you guys launch it?
About 3 years ago.
3 years ago? Yeah, I remember first couple episodes and being, okay, we got to plan this out. What are we going to talk about? What are the questions? And for me, it evolved into, I just like to have a conversation.
Yep.
Let's just see where it goes. Most of the time it works. Sometimes it flops, but
most of the time it works. Yeah. And sometimes we get a really good banter going, and you can sometimes uncover some really interesting stuff.
I got to say that I feel extremely uncredentialed. I'm looking at Curtis's background, and he's got diplomas or certificates or something. At least he's got books there.
Yeah.
That's my book right there.
Oh, it's your book. Little product placement there on the shoulder.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, it's a very small, so it's not that good of a product placement. But yeah, anyway,
subliminal.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Mark, for coming on the podcast.
Hey, this has been awesome. I don't get a chance to be on too many other podcasts other than my own, and I've really enjoyed this. You guys are awesome and funny, and obviously very deep subject matter experts in this area. So I've enjoyed it.
And unlike being on your podcast, you can now just leave, and then I have to
see you guys. I'm out of here. When are you going to get this edited, Curtis? When is it going to go online, man?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. It's
exactly.
already Thursday.
Exactly.
So,
all
right, guys. Hey, you take care and have a
both.
great 2022. Okay. Cheers.
Yeah, and thanks, Persona. Even though you ditched me,
I'm sorry, Curtis.
and
I'm sorry I disagreed with you about SAS, but yeah, do something.
Yeah, whatever. All right, and thanks to the
Mark.
listeners. Yeah, make sure to subscribe so that you can restore it all.